You'll have to forgive me, but until 4 minutes ago, I was asleep. And Karima said, it's time for satsang. So I'm here, but I don't know who I am yet or where I am. This is a good time to ask me questions since I haven't really formulated a talk today that I can remember formulating it. So, do we have any questions? Start the ball rolling, so to speak. Raju, do you have a question?
Uh, to become empty is the ultimate question. I mean, to move towards emptiness, to let go, uh, and relaxation is the way to kind of feel that. But the one who is controlling that, uh, is that the self that is controlling that, or is that the thought, the I thought that is, controlling that? That's always, it switches there in practice. Edji, can you throw some light on that?
The sound is not very loud. Let's see if I can improve the sound.
Was I audible for others?
What?
No, I was asking if I was audible for others as well, or if you want me to repeat the
It
question.
was kind of loud, but I think it's my audio that's bad.
Oh.
Say something, Raju.
Yeah, is it okay now?
Just keep speaking.
Okay. Yeah, the question was more on, as you're trying to relax, as you're trying to uh, relax, the one that is trying to inquire, the one that is trying to uh, control or bring the awareness or attention back, that is doing that, is that still the individual ego, or is that the self, or does it sort of change its state as the deeper you go? Right?
That's a good question. For me, they are not different. But I'm trying to think back. I think you can say, for the purposes of argument, that it's always only the self. You may not know it's the self or label it the self, but it's the self. Now I've got this large box on the screen that's blocking out the view of most of you. Karima? Jesus, no, there's flies. It's not, yeah. Well, I just turned the picture sideways. Now it's upside down. That probably is the way it should be. But on my picture of me, it's kind of washed out by the window behind me. Is it the same for you? Is the picture
Uh, the
washed out?
video is the video is turned off right now, Edji.
The what?
The video is turned off right now. We can't see anything.
But when the video's on, the light behind's too bright to see half your head.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't really move this time. It's too late. But next time, I'll be in
Okay,
a different place where there's not this black background of light.
thank you.
Kind of cool, Edgy, anyway, that there is like a halo behind you. So
You have to ask me some questions. My mind is not working yet. Eddie asked me a question.
I don't think you finished answering the first question.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. My mic's working. Um, I had a question about a quote that Ramana said. He said that
What?
a quote that Ramana said. It
What's
was
a quote Ramana said?
yeah. Shit, I don't have the quote on me, but it was something along the lines that like Shiva exists on like three different like planes of existence. One of them was like I think like physical, Par Brahman, and I don't remember what the third one was.
What's that again now?
It's like it was something like Shiva exists in like three different states. Like one of them was like Par Brahman, one was like the physical, and then I forget what the third one was.
I have no idea.
Oh, okay.
The point is to get to know yourself outside of the mind. So any kind of understandings like that really are not helpful to
Oh,
any spiritual advancement. That's just like knowing how to count or do the alphabet. It's just talking, and talking isn't realization. When you realize you barely talk at all.
oh, okay. Thank you.
I don't know what he's talking about. You know, when there's nothing important in the world and you have to do a talk every day like he did, what is there to say? You can say, fuck you, everybody. Or you can say, I love everybody. Or you can say, I don't know what the hell's going on. And it's all the same, except that how the words impact your mind and your heart. And then if it impacts your heart, it doesn't matter what the words were. So the point of meditation is to leave the mind behind altogether and then watch yourself functioning without a mind. And I bet you most people don't think that they can function without the mind because they prize the mind so highly. All of our Western culture is aimed at having the child learn about its environment and learn communication, very practical kinds of things. But the more deeper theoretical point of view is like, what the hell is talking all about? What are you trying to hear, trying to understand? Because understanding is not the primary function of enlightenment or that lack thereof. When you're in spirituality, at least the one that Robert and Ramana had, the point really is to get to existence without the mind, to not have the mind in the background or the foreground, constantly speaking and talking to you about what's going on, making you feel different things in your environment, cues that are offered by the speaker that you're listening to. This is a cue-free talk. You can do with it what you want. But the best thing you can do is to not think during satsang, and instead feel like you're trying to open your heart, not by any imaginative jumping thing like imagine yourself with a can opener opening your heart, but just to shut up and not talk as much as possible. And instead, just listen and be there now without the mind interfering with your grasping what the words are. Normally, when we talk, it's about rather trivial things that don't require much of a background to understand. But with Robert's words, actually, he was quite boring. You wait for the words to come to you in silence. And if you get close to having a silent mind, Satsang can bridge that gap and have it stop for a while so that you function without the interference of your mind. It's to talk free from your mind. Oh, my older cat came out meowing, and I see the reason. Our younger cat was chasing her. It's good they play together, though, so she doesn't feel too lonely. You want freedom from the mind so that you can function in emptiness and in silence, totally without the mind. I guess it's because for most things, the mind is not needed. If you were doing a calculus problem, you need the mind. If you were in an argument with somebody trying to convince them about something, you need the mind. But when you're in a state of just openness and acceptance without the mind being present, it's different. You feel the difference inside yourself. You feel emptiness. Your words you speak go into emptiness, and your own mind isn't there talking to you about what you're doing or what you should do or remembering Robert's words. You're just nothing. Probably nothingness is better than any other term. Some use the term silence, others nothing. But what you're trying to do, really essentially, is to perceive what you're like. But don't let any words arise. Sit as tall as you can. to have the most balanced posture possible so you can sleep even and your body won't topple over. This is acquired with skill and with the proper sitting technique, like with half lotus or lotus. It's like a stiffener of some sort because you won't fall over, no matter whether you feel your body or you're aware of your body or not anymore. Most of the time, with our minds, we're engaged in commenting on everything to ourselves. Like, that sounds like Robert, or wonder what I'm going to do for lunch today, or why do you don't understand what Ed is saying? How do I understand what's being said? Because it sounds like he's trying to take our talking away from us so that we can rest in emptiness, whatever that means. And why should I do it? What do I get out of it? Well, done correctly for a period of time, after you've learned how to do it, be alert without falling asleep and without using your mind. Just sit and feel the joy of being so open. Because when you're not bound by your mind, it's like total freedom. Your presence expands to all parts of your body and to the room around you. You're no longer isolated as an individual speaking and being primarily located somewhere near your chest or behind your eyes or anything like that. Because when you're empty, direction doesn't mean anything. There is no direction. It's all open no matter which direction you go. And you don't speak like answering a problem, answering a question. But you speak by looking at yourself in the moment and responding from a place of selflessness. And the response is automatic. It doesn't have to be thought out. You're not a prisoner of words anymore. But there are further hurdles to get over that you have to loose yourself from. But the most important one is to loose yourself from your connection with your mind and the dominance of the mind. The mind, thousands, millions, hundreds of thousands of years ago, got its opening because it allowed the person to plan, to think ahead, to scope out a situation. What's that sound? We have a cat over there yelling at something outside, and then there's this weird sound from outside. That's about as good as I can do right now. Does anybody else have a question? Chris, you write a lot. Do you have any questions or any offerings?
The only thing that comes to mind is to ask you, why do you come to satsang?
I like it. I enjoy it. It's like I've escaped from many of the things of mind. And my heart feels a need to help free others from their minds, to enjoy existence directly from the heart rather than through the mind. The mind, for me, is like something to be avoided because it contaminated most of my life. And to live in a state where you're not contaminated by the mind is happiness. So I want others to feel that happiness too. So we can do it as a family together. Like the whole world to be happy like this. Happy, happy, happy. Joy, joy, joy. Your body relaxes when you're no longer bound by the mind. Your body doesn't exhibit the hardness of someone ready to leap up at a moment's notice and to meet some sort of perceived challenge from the external world. It allows you to feel at peace with nowhere to go and nothing to do. You're all filled up. There's no need to do anything anymore, except figure out how to get rid of all these flies that are around me now. I don't know where flies come from in the middle of the winter, but we have 4 or 5 of them that have been here a couple of days. Karima always wants to spray them, but I call her a murderer and she stops. But my punishment is the little devils seem to pick me out, to irritate me, to get me to change my ways, to kill them. Eddie, do you have a question? And if you don't have a question, can you tell me what's happening to you now? Verbalize your experience. That's all right, Eddie. Relax. I'm going to pick Chris now to ask a question or to make a comment. Chris writes a lot. He's a beautiful writer, and he's right on with most of what he writes.
I don't feel like talking right now. I'm just nice and relaxed. I'm going to stay that way.
Okay. Phooey on you.
You once told me to just say, fuck off, Ed.
Don't listen to me. Be polite to me. Vasilina, do you have a question or a comment?
No, I don't have any questions.
Jay, a question?
Not really. As I said, I try to take the template from your words and allow it. It allows me to live in the mundane world, which I find the circumstances in the immediate offing can be unsettling, to say the least. I think that there's a toxic degenerate who's going to do 2.0, and I don't know where it's going to end. And so I try not to go there. So it takes a lot to put it down, but your words about nothing to do and nowhere to go are a salve, and they're exquisite in a way. I think in the context of pure awareness, awareness of awareness, what we are as consciousness, that we're vessels, that we're God manifest, that there's a singularity to it and a beatitude to it, which is exquisite. And I feel that. I feel the force that you talk about. I feel it in my chest. I feel it radiating throughout my body. And there's a grace and a power that sustains me, and it suffuses me, and it's exquisite and it's magnificent. And I hope that answers your question, because it's what you do to me every time. If you were just simply here, your amness is electric. So yeah, I love you.
Thank you so much. By the way, did you ever get a new cat?
No, we're still you know, both my wife and I are old. We have a lot of doctors. Um, we're trying. Her last birthday was November 8th, so we went to Paris for a week, and it was exquisite. And so it's our 50th wedding anniversary coming up next year, and we're, God willing, gonna, the three of us, my son, my wife, and myself, do a cruise out of Tokyo for 3 weeks. So, but so the the our super is comes from a country where they revere cats, and he was so gentle with Gypsy Gypsy would have had his kittens. I mean, she just loved this man so. Gypsy comes to me in my dreams, and I don't know, the three states of consciousness: the waking dream, the sleeping dream, and deep sleep. Um, I don't know whether it was Robert Adams who basically said that there's an evidence in the sleeping dreams that may be as powerful or more powerful than the waking dream. It shows consciousness at work in a way that is absolutely, again, God manifest in miracles. So, yeah, I just find I miss little Gypsy a lot. I sometimes look at the satsangs where I was holding her, and she was treasured. So I love you and your cats, and wish them all well and you well. Certainly, I love you. I love you, Edji. Thank you again.
Thank you. That's sweet. Sweet. I see my two cats lying on top of Karima, and in the blanket she's covered herself with. It's rather chilly here in Arizona. But some of you are in a place where it's actually just desperately cold. I remember those days. I remember going to school and college, having taken a train, rapid transit, across the town in sub-zero weather, and arriving so goddamn cold that I couldn't think during the entire hour of the class. Now, I think if I saw snow, something would break in me. Because I'd say, no, 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 no. Sarah, do you have a question? You're so quiet.
Hi, Ed. Thanks for being here. Thanks for what you do for me. You calm me down, make me quiet. And that's a goal of mine, is to sit quietly, to not think. One of the things I do, I don't know if you think this is good or not, but at least half of my day is spent listening to chant. Because if I do that, I can do other things without thinking. So the chant seems to take over that part of my brain that wants to argue with me and give me nonsense.
That's wonderful that you do that. That chanting does that for you. It did that for me too.
Yeah.
Many years I lived with just chanting music going on in the house.
I used to just use like classical music or Willie Nelson, something ridiculous, but it didn't work like the chanting does. It's like magic. I love it.
Any specific form of chanting?
Well, I guess I started with, I lost his name now. He uses initials. When I started, I was online listening to him, Krishna Das, and I guess that became my favorite because it was my first encounter with real chanting.
And what about Muktananda?
Oh, yes, yes. I mean, I didn't find much that I didn't like. Bernadette has done a great job of collecting all these chants, and she gave me ability to use it through Spotify, so I can just go on and on and on with all the different It's all the different people who have taken me to where I need to be, to a quiet place.
Very good. What city do you live in?
Torrance, California.
Uh,
I don't want to live in the snow anymore, as you said. I lived in the mountains of Pennsylvania. I lived in Scotland, and it was all no, no more. I don't want that anymore.
yeah, that's us too. Green
Yeah.
and I. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Good to hear that.
Thank you.
Adam, do you have something to say?
Hey, Edgy. I always just want to echo what Jay says. He's so eloquent in expressing his feelings for you, and I wish I could do the same. But yeah, I just appreciate you being here and love you very much, and also the Sangha here. I do have a question I can throw at you. You talked about um, kind of beginning meditators that it can take several years before kind of seeing results in your practice. And I was just wondering, how do you know that you're doing it correctly, so to speak, in that interim period when you're just starting out?
How do you know what? That this is the true way? The best thing to do?
I guess, yeah, but more so just that you're meditating in a way that's being beneficial.
That's a good question. It's really good. But the thing is, there's no real answer for that. It's something you have to keep questioning until you're there. What's the right way? What's the best way to meditate? How to meditate or not meditate? But there are two fundamentally different ways to meditate. One is to meditate without music, without sound, and the other is to do chanting in the background or spiritual talk in the background that you can sort of rest in. The spiritual talk in the background has a different feel than non-talking meditation. And you have to just keep practicing being quiet, sitting in a quiet room, if you have any, and imaginatively turn your vision around inside your head as if your eyeballs were crossing and then turning completely around, looking backwards at yourself into the emptiness inside, the empty darkness inside. And then gradually over time, move that inner vision downwards throughout your whole body and into the ground beneath you until it all becomes conscious to you. It took me many years to get to the place where my body was totally relaxed. And I could see everything. And I was at rest. My body was totally relaxed and at rest. I'd say it took at least 15 years, maybe 20, to get to that place where I felt my meditation was most productive and just being empty and self-aware in that emptiness. In other words, what is my body feeling now that I'm in meditation? And you can always ask yourself that question and then be silent after it and just go with that. Examine your inner self and what it feels like, what your heart feels like from the inside, what your toes feel like from the inside, what your body overall feels like from the inside, so that you replace your outer vision with a priority of inner vision, which is no vision whatsoever, because you can't really see into your body. But it's as if you could, because you see something different than you feel when you meditate. The vision itself is much stiller. It's still operating, and it appears to be operating with penetrating light that you can see yourself in yourself all over. And then, if you want, you can expand into the space around you to see how far you can expand to, how big your conscious awareness can get. And also, your environment determines a lot what kind of meditation you can use. If you're quiet, if it's quiet, you can use almost any meditation technique and just learn to stay awake when you're going inside and your mind stops. Because the tendency is when the mind stops to feel like you've actually accomplished something and you go to sleep. So you have to learn to stay awake and stay in emptiness without falling asleep. That's what good as satsang is for. At least you have something to listen to. Another way is to sit in meditation, listening to some talks by Robert or whoever, me, Rajneesh. But one thing you don't do that much is read about spirituality. The tendency will be to read everything you can about a spiritual life. But the spiritual life of one person can be vastly different from the spiritual life of another person. And unless you listen to the person that's correct for you, you won't gain much out of what they're saying. You find the place you're comfortable, and there you sit and make your stand, exploring yourself with your vision primarily, and also by ignoring sounds or visions that come into your head. and shake yourself free of them until they stop. And you can go on in thoughtless investigation of yourself. So it's like having an awareness, a searching awareness of who or what you are. And you'll find over the years that everything you are changes. You become more ethereal, I would say. You're not so ponderous anymore, not so earthbound anymore. You're more self-bound. And by that I mean your world changes and everything becomes an extension of you. You're everywhere. You imbue everything and you embrace everything. Now, if you're in a loud environment, it's much harder to get to the quiet place because your world is filled with noise and noise is distracting. Until you could live without being distracted by the constant noise around you, your meditation will not be very deep. You're trying to get to a place where your thinking mind isn't. It isn't awakened, it isn't prodded, it isn't asked a question. There's nothing for it to do, so it just stops, allowing your mind to settle throughout your body and the space around you, because you're not limited to your body. Your mind is free to just shut up and you can examine yourself. Absent mind. Of course, your mind is still there to a bit extent by trying to follow a direction of watching yourself when you're no-minded, because that's an activity and there's something that's motivating that activity. And in the largest way, it's your friend, which is your probingness. You're wanting to reach the ends or the edges of your own experience and existence in order to find yourself. And you find yourself that you're nothing. Emptiness embraces all parts of you. And when you begin to realize this, you feel so happy because silence, the emptiness takes your mind away. And when your mind is away, you just expand. Say your biggest 100 bodies would be, or 1,000. And you feel rested and you feel happy. Happiness is no mind. No mind is happiness. And we're all obsessed with our minds. We're taught from very early time to learn how to talk, to communicate, to explore the world. We're made to be explorers as students. You learn all about history, you learn about politics, you learn about math, and there's no rest. Your mind is always engaged. So you get to a place in meditation where you escape the mind entirely and you're just in a mindless existence that's free and easy. Unless somebody pisses you off and then you fly off the handle and kill them. But gradually you perfect the silence. and you rest in yourself as nature intended you to do, actually. But your mind screwed it all up. Now, if you watch a cat and how a cat behaves and how they sleep, you see perfect sleeping, perfect rest. They're always at rest except when they get agitated about something, and then it's only momentary, it lasts a few minutes or a day. But there's no mind that's constantly stirring them to understand what's going on. They think that they're okay the way they are, and that's what you should think about yourself. I'm okay. But you don't say it. That doesn't help. You have to experience yourself without your mind intruding to find out how okay you can get, and then to play with that for the rest of your life until you get into depths of thoughtlessness that are so deep and they take you so far away from the world, or they take you so into the world. It's the other way, and you become everything. So there's no need to bother you about anything because you're everything. There's all of these different kinds of side paths you can follow through meditation and explore and either accept or reject. But basically, you want to, as much as possible, to reject anything intruding on your silence. But don't be strong about it. If your mind wanders, just try to gently straighten it out and go into nothingness. Don't use vast amounts of energy. When I was first went to a spiritual teacher was to Philip Kapleau in New York. And when I sat in silence after a evening service, I began hearing the people around me, some breathing very hard, like they were trying to lift 1,000-pound weight. But there was nothing gentle about the way the people there did their meditation. And I thought that that was the correct thing to do. You huff and you puff, and you sort of fight your way into heaven or into enlightenment. But that's the only place they ever practiced meditation like that. I talked to him many years later, maybe 10 years ago. He was still alive. And he was a good old time to talk to. There was no ethereality about him in everyday life over the phone. He was quite happy to have me call. Maybe he was retired long enough. He needed to get somebody to talk to him again. Three Pillars of Zen, as I remember it, is an excellent, excellent book. It will inspire you to practice and to throw yourself into spirituality like it did me. But also, listening to a talk by Robert or Ramana is so hard because you can't know what they're talking about. You haven't the experience because all they do is talk from their own experience of themselves, which is nothingness, emptiness. And unless you know this emptiness yourself, what they say, you just can't make sense of it because you're trying to wrap it into an answer of some sort. But what's the question? The question is, who are you? And there's no way to answer that. But that mind that searches for who I am is the correct meditation. You sit in silence, facing a wall, maybe with a candle in front of you. You calm down and you go into what you experience of yourself. You feel yourself. You look at yourself with your imaginary eyesight. And you hear. And you feel your muscles contracting in various parts of your body because most people have places that are always tense. And you can work on those in meditation to just try to relax those. And then you can break through. And your mind stops. And you are filled with an elation of having escaped your mind. It's like entering a large temple of such grandness that it takes your breath away and you don't want to speak. And you're in silence and awe of your own existence and of what you perceive, which is nothingness with your eyes closed. Nowhere to go, nothing to do. You're perfectly at rest. And you're happy beyond anything you've ever known before, and in a way you've never known before. You have your own cloak of silence that you wear. You don't engage with the environment anymore. You're engaged with yourself alone. And when you're with the teacher, you can try to understand it that the teacher is trying to take you to yourself. So the self, or knowing the self, becomes a big thing for you. But the self is nothingness. And it's nothingness that is alive. And when you can feel it in yourself and around yourself everywhere, you're happy beyond belief. Because you're no longer wrestling with a coach in the background that's telling you the right way to do things or what to think about. The coach is gone. and you're there alone. Resting in yourself. With nowhere to go, nothing to do. You're at rest now. So then you just sit in peace, aware. And then sometimes, often I should say, even that awareness goes away and you're sitting in silence, aware of nothing. Then usually you fall asleep too. It takes a long time to learn how to not fall asleep in meditation. Because when your body gets still, the only thing really it knows how to do is to go to sleep. It thinks it's time to sleep when your mind shuts up and isn't bothering you. So you have to overcome that tendency to fall asleep, and that takes time. But one hint is don't go about this in a crude, muscular way. Be as refined as you can when you're handling the mind so that you don't break it. Because you can break your mind to the extent that you're not able to think at all, even when you're not meditating. And it's a kind of very dysfunctional place to be for almost anybody. Now I got a fly around my head. I wonder if it's a student of mine coming back to me. Any other questions? Jackson?
Hey, Edji. Enjoyed your talk. I was listening to an older satsang you were giving, and you're talking about how somebody wrote to you and said that, like, in reality, there's no Shakti doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's like imaginary.
Say that again.
Someone told you that Shakti doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's imaginary. And
What? Say that again. There's one word I'm missing. It sounds like low.
Someone said that Shakti or presence doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's imaginary.
Okay.
To you. And that idea seems quite all-encompassing and kind of verifiable in one's own experience. Kind of all of our experience doesn't really know whether it's real or imaginary. And it kind of lines up with what you say, is that, it makes things not seem to matter a whole lot, honestly. So I guess if you would, I don't know, talk on that topic of it mattering whether our experience is real or imaginary, or if Shakti or presence is reaction to that, if that makes sense.
I would say that exploring that is not very helpful. Because it's a very complicated answer.
Yeah.
I'd say that during meditation, the reality is silence and peace. When you're not in meditation or return to the ordinary world, the environment seems to be impressing itself on you at all times. So you become reactive to it, conform to it. But in meditation, there is no such external presence affecting you or guiding your behavior. There's nothing there and you're free. So I'd say it doesn't matter whether it's real or not. What you want to feel is freedom that you haven't felt before because you've escaped the mind. So I don't know what I said back then or why, but forget that. And instead, find out whether you are real by looking at yourself inside internally. Turn your vision around so that you're looking into yourself, into your chest, and into your heart. Now, you can't really do that, but you can really make progress of meditation deepening by doing that. I can't imagine, though, about the reality and the unreality. I think when you've escaped the world and have primary focus on your own space, your own life, the life force within you, and you can detect the life force within you. Matter of fact, it becomes quite exciting and interesting to be able to watch the presence of the life force within you and how it moves. Not when you're meditating, because when you're meditating, it stops. But in everyday life, because you're so used to looking within and feeling within, that in everyday life, when the life force moves in you, you feel it almost like a second entity. That's a ghost of energy, lighted energy inside of you. And it's fascinating to watch. But I'm not even sure it's me in any way. Just like the body's not me. But it entertains me no end, watching these energy things going on around me and in the world. I know I didn't answer your question because I can't. I don't know what an answer is for that. Sorry.
I think
Sarah. What?
I think you definitely did in a roundabout way. I didn't explain it too well, but you definitely provided what I was wondering about.
Okay. In a roundabout way. Sarah, are you there? Are you awake? Aju. Now there's an active mind there. Very powerful mind. You can do well with it once you master it. Do you have a question or a comment? You're very powerful. You have a very powerful presence.
When every part of the body, the mind, the intellect are all powerful, that how we can set aside our tools and our parts of the
How we
body,
can set aside what?
how we can set aside our hand and like our tools aside when we want to. Can we set aside our mind is the biggest challenge.
Yeah. You can try it by meditating and by chanting.
Yeah.
Chanting is wonderful to get rid of your mind. You just flow with the chant and become one with the chant. And the mind is not there. And yet that's why they have it. That's why there's so much chanting going on in spiritual circles, to hear music that they play that you can listen to. But chanting is the foremost one. Or you repeat the name of God or some other phrase that either has meaning or doesn't have meaning. It's better not to have meaning, because the meaning of it will screw you up if you follow that too closely. But if you just were able to say God, God, God over and over again, or who am I? Because that gives your mind a kind of inquiry, alertness of looking for something. And I think that's the most powerful one that you can get is, who am I? Ask yourself who I am, because that directs you toward yourself, your attention into yourself. Who am I? But you can't just die to yourself by thinking, having all of these tools and all of these things in me that distract me from my quietness. Getting rid of them, you can't get rid of them directly. What you do is you drop them by focusing on yourself. And when you begin to know yourself in silence, my God, the difference. You expand and become one with the universe. And you're silent and you're ecstatic. You're happy beyond belief, for a while at least. But you can't just put in a coin and have the mind stop. You have to become aware of everything. And how you go about doing that? You can go about that by doing chanting, by listening to spiritual music, by going to satsang, or by directing your attention into your body in meditation, seeing what you could see, whether you can see into yourself. And it feels like you can. It feels like your mind begins to settle from the head down into your body. And for me, when it first began to happen, it was like a sudden dropping of my mind from my brain into my heart. And it was instant relief. I don't know whether has anybody else experienced that? The dropping of the mind from your head into your body in meditation. No. Anyway, just keep focusing on your heart or your belly, focusing your attention there, even while you're walking or doing something, a task. Focus on you, not the task. Focus on you. Focus on finding what's in your body, what feelings go on in there, what energies are in there. And do it in a relaxed way, not a strained way like I did it. It took me years to stop doing it was in a strained way. But gently, gently, gently. Does that help? I can't believe it. It's already an hour, almost an hour and a half. So, I wish you well. I wish you happiness. I wish you be able to grasp nothingness and make it your own. And when it's nothingness, you really don't care what's going on much. Fucking bug. Fucking bugs got my attention. It's like that story of a monk sitting in a temple, and the town and the temple are invaded and taken over by a conqueror who comes in and sees that the monk is the only person there. And he's bothered by the fact that the monk pays no attention to him. And he says, "Hey, you there, why aren't you attending to me? Because I'm a kind of person that can kill you and have not a second thought." And the monk says, "But I am someone that can be killed without a second thought." He himself wouldn't mind. It wouldn't faze him because he is beyond the body, beyond the life and death. His center of his being was beyond the mortal coil. And you'll get to know that too in meditation. The silence of emptiness, the power of emptiness, the ecstasy of emptiness. So go empty yourself. Take care. I love you all. Bye-bye. I guess my camera hasn't been on the whole time, right? Shit.
Just came on
You're
now.
right. Hi. Okay. How did it sound, a voice coming out of emptiness, like a radio program in the background?
It sounded pretty powerful. I mean, disembodied. I don't know that it added a whole dimension to it, but it was it rocked my world. You know, just kind of got to me. The words really. Although you're look, I love when you're on camera because there's a validation, seeing and being seen on some
Yeah.
level. Even if none of us exist, it still helps. But
Okay.
Google 3 Pillars of Zen. There's a PDF that's fantastic online.
PDF what?
There's a PDF file of 3 Pillars of Zen from 485 pages. Plus, there's a treasure. Philip Kaplow does an annotated, I will use the word exegesis because it applies to a dissertation on a religious tome. He talks to monks about why he became a monk, and he corrects them all throughout their study in Zen, and it's marvelous.
Okay.
I just started to read it, and I'm going to read it all the
What's
way
the
through.
link? What's the link to it?
Well, the easiest way is just to Google 3 Pillars of Zen. It'll bring up everything.
All right.
I mean,
Thank you so much.
there's a publishing house. It's TEREBESS.HU. I could put it in the chats, but it's really short. But that's the publishing house.
Okay.
Okay, ciao. I mean, enough.
Thank you.
Chris, I have to say that I miss Mark. Yeah.
1 sec. Would you?
He's listening.
I miss.
No, I can. I just want to make. I haven't shut off the recording yet.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm not going to say anything.
No, that's cool. I just wanted to let you know that we're still recording.
No, that's good to know. Yeah. I mean, Edji has a way with expletives that I don't.
I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. 1 sec.